Yes, folks, it's Tales from the Jails with John G. Sutton. I'm going to talk today about prison then and prison now as to the changing times. As I was pointing out in yesterday's broadcast, that the regime of the governor at Strangeways, Norman Brown, was verging on insanity, in my opinion. And as one of our kind commentators pointed out in yesterday's comments, Barry Smith, who was at Strangeways for a while during the time that I was there, he pointed out that Norman was, in today's society, would have been the subject of being suspended and legally investigated, because he was, in effect, supporting the abuses that were taking place. And that was the regime he ran. You see, he would have been suspended from duty and criminally investigated for what was taking place. But what was taking place was, in that time, effective, because we were massively overcrowded, and the way that it worked was run it by fear. You know, they didn't run it by. People weren't exactly volunteering to get into the system, and that's fine, we'll go along with that. It was a case of you do it or else, and the or else included, as I pointed out yesterday, the block. And the block was populated by staff who had appropriate nicknames, the school bully, Bootsy, Piggy, the Chinese money box, all that lot. They were down there waiting for you if you stepped out of line. And once you got down to the block, if you stepped out on the white tiles instead of the black tiles, then all hell broke loose. It was just some kind of mad regime that they'd decided upon down there. And of course they were using what's known as the silent system. They didn't speak to the prisoners, although they certainly seemed to have some fun amongst themselves, if that could be construed as fun, booting people up and down the landings, which I did see and reported. And what happened? Well, I was ostracised for doing that, because that was the regime, you see. That was what they wanted. But today they've got a different approach to it. They've got hostesses. They've got people being given musical instruments, guitars, to play in their cells. They've got televisions. They've got Xboxes. Got computers. To a certain extent, what we've got now is appeasement as opposed to aggression. So that definitely had aggression in the 70s and 80s that I was there. And if you've ever seen a TV show called Life on Mars, you ever seen that? Well, it was about the police in 1973, and the guy who was the chief inspector. They could have had my dad playing that. It was really like that, violent, aggressive. Never mind whether you're guilty or not, get in that cell and we're going to beat 10 bells out of you. And my father used to believe that he could tell a criminal just by looking at the way they were dressed. Imagine that. It's a case of a mistaken Lombroso. Lombroso is Cesar Lombroso, was a psychologist in the 1900s, 1890s, and he had a series of photographs that he published of criminal types. But these, when on later examination, they were found not to be actual criminal types at all. These were people who were suffering from things like acromegaly and Down syndrome and various other diseases, illnesses and genetic complications, but they were not basically criminals. they were unfortunate people who had been ostracised by society and wrongly labelled by Cesar Lombroso as criminal archetypes. Look up Cesar Lombroso on Google. Tell me I'm right, yeah? But anyway, in the 1970s, violence against prisoners was practically commonplace. And the prisoners themselves, they couldn't really complain. I mean, who are they going to complain to? They had a board of visitors, but listen, I met the board of visitors many times at places like Wormwood Scrubs and Strangeways. And they were very nice people, but completely ineffectual. And they only got to see what the governor wanted them to see. And in the case of Norman Brown, that wasn't very much. I mean, they go down the block. I went round with the board of visitors once, opening and closing the cells for them, you know. They go down the block, and before the board of visitors came, the staff went round the block and said, say one word to these board of visitors, and when they've gone, you'll be bouncing off the walls. So, open the cell doors. Everything all right? Absolutely perfect. Next cell. That's how it worked, yeah. Or it didn't work, as the case may be. So the times, they are a-changing. Here we go, 45, 50 years later. I'm still around, by the way, as you can probably see. But then again, I consider myself to be sane. Do you know that when I was working for the Home Office, they tried to get me, they had me seen by a psychiatrist. Something wrong with this man. Yeah, I said to see the psychiatrist, honestly, this is God's honest truth. Psychiatrist said, he listened to me for about an hour. He said, Mr. Sutton, he said, there's a problem here. He said, you're perfectly sane, by the way. He said, but where you're working, it's an absolute madhouse. I could have told him that, eh? Yeah. He said, I was psychologically unsuited to work in that insane asylum that was at that time called Strangeways. It's now called HMP Manchester. Quite how they coping with the overcrowding, because in them days, as I say, you know, you did what you were told or you met the school bully. Anyway, that's enough for today on Then and Now in HM Prisons. Yes, I know, Larry's grabbed his goat. He's running for the hills. What about you, Paula? Yeah? You got your kilt? Gonna do some dancing round as I sing? Good. And Catherine? Here we are. This is a song from 1952, actually. But this guy, I believe, is still going. He's absolutely incredible. He must be 95. Yeah. You will all have heard of him, yeah. Mr. Tony Bennett. He sang I Left My Heart in San Francisco. Yeah, that was one of his big hits. But this was a big hit for him in 1952. In fact, it was number one on the hit parade. This is Rags to Riches, yeah. I met a guy who went from riches to rags, PJ Proby. The rags being his kecks when he split them on stage. And I've seen people commenting on my observations on this, saying that when he ripped his pants, his todger popped out. Well, according to the Record Mirror, who were at the event, yeah, when he actually did this, that is exactly what happened. People are saying, oh no, it didn't, but that's what the Record Mirror, and you can still look it up, from January 1965. Anyway, this is Tony Bennett, or Tony Bennett's version of Rags to Riches, absolutely emasculated by John G. Sutton. I know I'd go from rags to riches if you would only say you care. And though my pockets may be empty, I'd be a millionaire. My clothes may still be torn and tattered, but in my heart I'd be a king. Your love is all that really matters. To me, it's everything. So open your arms and you'll open the door to every treasure that I'm hoping for. Hold me and kiss me and tell me you're mine evermore. Must I forever be a beggar whose golden dreams will not come true? Or will I go from rags to riches? My fate is up to you. They are Rags to Riches, destroyed by John G. Sutton. Larry's crying now. Can't put up with it anymore. Don't forget to buy my book, by the way.